like, don't hang up. Hey, we're on air. Still having some technical problems, but that's okay because we're going to weather through them. Hey everyone, it's Kristi, and thank you for joining me for my second in a row patron hangout to make up for the time that I was away for the UK general election. Now, we have a really interesting topic today. I'm very excited about it because when we decided it, I realized I didn't have a clear answer. So I want to hear what other people have to say, maybe talk about the topic itself, that being heroines. And everyone's going to discuss their favorite heroines, except for maybe Marianne, who will report and do little clips. I don't know how much text we can read out. She's having some mic problems, but she's new and we want to welcome her. So hello.
Hello.
Start on that topic though. Update, I put out a video earlier this week that was a debate invitation where if someone wants to come and test my robust feminist arguments, they're welcome to. And just to give you an update on where that stands. So it was kind of a first come, first served situation. The first person who got back to me that I read was the distributus, and we're actually having a very civil and productive conversation about identifying a resolution, and then we're going to discuss, I'm sure, if we can come to an agreement on the wording, moderators, dates, and the format and everything else. So that's underway. I'm also going to be having a debate with another feminist from the Jody Sinead, is that I'm pronouncing it correctly? Sorry. Channel. She and I are going to we're working out the wording of something now. Jeff request, and I told him I'm already in negotiations, but I would get back to him. A couple of the people have kind of sort of, like, it seems to me, not very sincerely offered a debate. Sequester Zone apparently made a mean video about me, which I haven't seen, but that doesn't, no serious offer was made there. I also have to check through the comments as well. And so I'm going to try to get back to everyone, but obviously it might be 6 months or a year before I get to get through answering all of the challenges, or invitations, I should say, that have been accepted. The last thing I want to say on that is that within a very short amount of time of my video going up, Noel Plum made a video in it, and I haven't had a chance to watch it because I was making my video from yesterday. If you guys haven't had a chance to see that, please do. I worked very hard on that video. But people in my comments are saying that he was saying because I blocked him on Twitter, I wouldn't debate him. Well, you know what, Noel, if you want to debate whether or not rape culture exists in the West, I am happy to debate you. So that being said, I'm going to stop talking so much now, and we're going to turn it over to my patrons so I can hear from them the answer to the question, how is it worded again? Exact wording, I'm trying to remember.
I came up with the topic.
The topic was, who is your favorite heroine from, oh, okay, yeah, you've got it, Troy.
Yeah, so it's just identifying a favorite heroine figure. So it doesn't necessarily have to be like a feminist angle or anything like that. It's just, you know, just an interesting topic. It's like, so from any type of pop culture, so it could be, you know, film, comic book, or any type of heroine that you have.
Yeah, I have a lot of ideas of that topic, actually, yeah.
Well, why don't you get us started? And actually, why don't we, if we could all, if we're not talking, mute ourselves just to keep any background noise turned off, so.
Oh, sure. Well, hello, I am some random geek. You can call me Jonathan, though. And favorite heroines, I mean, that's something for me to list. I'll start with like one of my favorites, Makoto Kusanagi from Ghost in the Shell. She's a character that's like, yes, she's female, or she chose a female body and that sort of thing, but that's never something that she is concerned with or never bothered to be thinking about, or just like she just likes the female body and she chose that, but it never repeats her work or anything like that. And like she's just hard as nails, tough as nails. It just like gets the job done. And when she wants to, she can lay a guy out. She either by hacking like Bato's own robotic arms, cybernetic arm, it's a cyberpunk future kind of thing, and make him punch himself, which is great for hilarity, or she doesn't need to do that. She can lay out Bato just on her own even though she's have a smaller body, she never lets that stop her. So Code Kusanagi is a very interesting character for me, and it's part of the reason why Ghost in the Shell is one of my favorite anime franchises of all times. But there's other characters I can list, but I'll let others chime in with like one of their favorites.
So Troy, do you want to go up next?
Hello, I'm Troy. So I was having a think about that, sort of like what makes like a sort of good sort of lead character, and I think it's like the matching of strengths between, if they're up against a big formidable opponent, then that's what makes it compelling. I think like the bigger the threat, I think the more compelling the character is. So I'd probably choose like 1992 Batman Returns. So I enjoyed the Catwoman in that. That's probably my favorite comic book adaptation for that, because I think I was about 12, but I just remember the first one was kind of like the human side of her beforehand, is like whatever her name was, like how she sort of had after she got bitten by the cat, she had this like nervous breakdown and was like trashing her apartment. I thought this scene is absolutely epic. And then just I was really drawn to this particular character. And then what made it interesting was just the interplay, and it was a very like psychological play between Batman and Catwoman and Penguin. So you got these three interesting characters, and it's hard to see which one's winning, because the minute you think that he has the upper hand, then the next scene is that, you know, she's kind of has that upper hand, and it's really interesting interplay. So it's like, for me, it's like it's the interplay between the male characters, you know, and that kind of helps to establish. So the bigger the threat is, I guess the bigger the payoff is. So that's my perspective.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for that. Hey, sorry, we were typing a little bit on the side because Marianne's mic might be working now. So let's try it out. Can we hear you? Not quite yet, but we'll keep working on it. So that leaves Tom. Chat with you a bit in the side, Marianne, but Tom, why don't you go ahead and give your perspective?
This is a little bit difficult for me in terms of current or modern or recent heroines. I am not very up on modern culture. I mean, you know, maybe, well, you know, Wonder Woman, which is pretty current, I suppose. And I can talk about that a little bit. But I'm not deep in the culture of Wonder Woman from before. Buffy, the Vampire Slayer. I have, we had recent Free Comic Book Day, and I have Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Wonder Woman, an alternative origin story for her from Free Comic Book Day. So I guess that's probably the most recent. I am a big, however, sorry to bring up a hero, Sergeant Rock fan. Sergeant Rock of Easy Company was the hero figure of a long-running comic franchise from late 50s through probably the early 70s. So that's my time. And one of the people that was featured in there was a French Maquis leader named Marie, and she was obviously beautiful and all that, but that wasn't focused on. What was focused on was her leadership against the Nazis in the most difficult situation, where she was fighting the Nazis. She had to organize with other people who were not necessarily feeling that women should be in leadership positions in war, and they avoided the whole way through, as I remember it anyway. They avoided the impulse to set up some kind of romantic relationship between the hero and the heroine, between Rock and Marie. And so she was fighting the war. She was another war fighter. She wasn't a, you know, a pretty woman who was being saved by, you know, the strong men. I'm sure she was in situations where she was saved, but then in a war, everybody saves everybody else. If you are doing it right, I guess. So, like I say, that I don't have a lot of recent experience with anything in popular culture. I'm really not up to date. So this, you know, the discussions of anime and Ghost of the Shell and things like that are right over my head. But I'm having fun. I'm having fun listening.
Tom? Oh, that's my phone going off. Right, I'll move that over. To add, or was that you pretty much done? You muted yourself. Okay, good. I guess that leaves me, because unless we want to try Marianne again. Do a bit more afterwards in the after the Hangout's done broadcasting. But I was really interested when this question came up because, to be honest, when I mental file effects, searching deep files, I realized I was having a difficult time coming up with an answer to this question. What I eventually settled on was Jessica Jones. But the reason that I settle on her is because she's the closest thing that we have, I think, to a fully rounded female heroine that I've seen. You know, I wasn't deep into comic books growing up, so maybe there are more well-rounded characters, not just pictures, if you know what I mean. And that's the thing. When I was growing up, I used to watch the old kind of campy Adam West Batman. Of course, the whole Batman Michael Keaton series started up when I was in my teens as well. And so those characters were always just they were sidekicks. They were eye candy. None of those women had deep, complex storylines of their own. And that's why I ended up settling on Jessica Jones, because in a way, it's because she's not a typical heroine, that she's more of a heroine to me. She's been a victim of abuse, and she's overcome that and not let it define her. She's taken agency over her life. She doesn't, you know, she has a sexual side, but she doesn't get by on her sexuality. What she means to accomplish doesn't need to be done, you know, in a low cut kind of top tight fitting superhero outfit. And it made me realize that even though we have a character like that now, the Jessica Jones character that was, you know, put on by Netflix, it really made a huge leap, because male hero characters have taken quite a long time to get to that point. You know, there was sort of a more black and white, analogous to the US versus Russia of the Superman story, and then you get more, you get deeper questions with like the X-Men and you know, who is accepted, who is human, how do we count that, these divisions. Those were always driven by male characters. And even though there were females who were part of the story, again, I just, you know, Marvel only movie that had its first female lead, right? Wonder Woman was a DC movie, but they've been making, okay, Catwoman was, you know, we'll just try to all forget Catwoman. I think it's the best. So if we can leave that aside, you know, and put something up more like Wonder Woman as a film with a really character lead that is a woman, and she does stuff that doesn't necessarily involve doing things for a man, then there's not a lot of those. That's why I think so many women and girls responded really well to that film, because I remember growing up, sorry, I'm talking the longest here, but I remember growing up when Star Wars came out. And of course, whenever you wanted to play Star Wars, if there was more than one girl, only one girl could be Leia, right? But the guys could be Han, they could be Luke, they could be Chewie, they could be 3CPO, they could be Darth Vader, they could be everyone. And there was only one role for all of the girls in the cinema version of it. yeah, so it just reminded me of how constricted the portrayal of it. So, you know, I've seen women fight in superhero movies before, obviously. But I have to say, like, when the fight scenes came up in Wonder Woman and she was just kicking, that's working.
Oh, cool. Huh.
Excellent. So I'll just finish my thought and then you can talk about your favorite. Yeah, to watch a woman just like, you know, who is a superhero. So, you know, this is like, of course, it's suspension of disbelief. She's got a magic lasso. You know, she can bounce bullets off of her bracelets. If you don't have a problem with that, then you shouldn't have a problem with her kicking some ass. And yeah, just sort of like seeing a woman hold her own in a fight. We've come a long way. When I was growing up, when there was a fight between two men, women would just stand in the corner and scream. We've kind of moved beyond that now. And maybe in horror movies they still do that. But yeah, it's actually nice to see a female be able to stand up, kind of like, but not on the sort of the level of Kill Bill where it's just a bloodbath. So anyway, Marianne, welcome.
Yeah, finally got the mic working. I think my favorite is Motoko Kusanagi of Ghost in the Shell in the standalone complex version. She's really, really cool and just does what she needs to do to get the job done. And I like the Wonder Woman movie. I just watched it on principle because, well, there's a superheroine movie finally with the superheroine in the lead. I just had to watch it and I really, really liked it. And I think that's it so far for Heroines. Yeah, done now.
So, Marianne, if I could, I would love to get more of your take on why you liked the Wonder Woman film. I mean, go ahead and give it a critique if you don't mind, like the positives and the negatives. I guess, spoiler alert, maybe speak more generally than any particular plot twists, but we'll try to keep it, yeah.
She was very straightforward in what she needed to do, and she just was the type of person, okay, I need to get there. Are you going to help me? Yes or no? If you don't, well, bye. And she wasn't hung up about the American dude who was played by Captain Kirk. And I think the favorite scene in the whole movie for me was the whole thing, men aren't necessary for pleasure. The whole theater broke down laughing at that point.
Yes, I do.
I really like that. I really like that exchange on the boat as well. It's good for the characters. Yeah.
So maybe everyone who's seen Wonder Woman so far can jump in. I'll wait because I did a lot of talking just now. So but yeah, Jonathan or Marianne, did you want to say anything else, or should I kick it over to Jonathan? Oh, looks like she's muted herself. Yeah.
Yeah, I really loved the Wonder Woman movie. It was just like, well, first it was a DC expanded universe movie that didn't suck. There's that. But also, like you mentioned, like last week Patreon, is like the plot was not overly complicated. It's like good guy or Wonder Woman, simple task, wants to like end the war and believing that it's Ares that is causing the war to end all wars to happen. And so just get rid of Ares, you gotta say the names correctly, get rid of Ares, that will stop the war. And I kind of like, also without spoiling things, how that ended in the way, something like that. It showed growth for the character of Wonder Woman. She was learning something at the end of it and stuff like that. Wonder Woman's still not like the greatest movie of all time, but still a really solid, really good movie that most anyone can enjoy. I mean, yeah, some 4-year-old kid were probably wondering, when's the action scene yet? When's the action scene yet? Which a coworker just like said to me that, yeah, her 4-year-old son was kind of bored during the talking scenes, but the talking scenes were good in my opinion as well. Oh, and Anna, like how like she just like, because she's a fish out of water and in London, she just like goes into the war room and stuff like that, and then all the other men are like, what's a woman doing here and stuff like that, and she, without knowing it, was breaking some societal norms and stuff like that. I really like that. And I really like how they handled that. They weren't also being preachy about it either, but just kind of like, why is this odd? Yeah, that's what I like about that movie.
Yeah, there was a really interesting book written by a political scientist whose name I forget, but the title of the book was Space Invaders. And it was she was a feminist scholar looking at the way that political institutions change once women enter that space. So you have historically exclusively male institutions like that room, you know, and she walks in here, she walks in there, her mere presence is a disturbance. You know, so yeah, and just looking at how people adapt and how things change and norms change to accommodate new groups when they, and then also with the say BME, Black minority ethnic MPs and stuff, for instance, in Parliament. So yeah, that scene, it didn't need to be overtly feminist because you could see all the reactions and you knew the time, and you also, because you sympathized with her, you felt that she was invading that space. She was the foreigner. She was the one who was wrong, but she was also right. She should be there because she knew stuff and she could help, you know. So that was also a very, yeah, I thought that was well done. Has anyone else seen it before I give my take?
I haven't actually seen it. I haven't actually seen it yet, but I'm impressed with the director Patty Jenkins because she's the one who directed Monster, in which like Charlie's, and for me that was like just seeing that name, because I just remember that name is very distinct because I obviously looked at the behind the scenes footage, and to actually create, it's kind of a segue a little bit, but to actually see, to handle a story like that, a real case story of a serial killer, so to try and paint I guess a sympathetic character that we could relate to, but at the same time to acknowledge that somebody has really done the wrong thing, and so to have that balancing act, and like a lot of people didn't want to, yeah, it's like to make a film like that, it takes a lot of sensitivity to actually pull it off, and like between the acting and the directing and the writing, it was absolutely brilliant. So I'll definitely have a chance to see it.
Yeah, my comment on it was, well, when I thought it was like out of a 10-point scale, it was like a solid 8.5. It wasn't the most brilliant, you know, I've seen better action movies insofar as, you know, like just there was a bit more tension or whatever else, but it definitely wasn't BVS. it was definitely in the sort of like better done superhero movies. And the other thing that I liked about it was actually very well articulated by a video that was made by somebody who's like a film studies person who knows this stuff better and articulates it better. I wish I remember which channel it was or what the name of the video was, but it was maybe it was like something along like in defense of cheesiness or something. But the basic argument is that in writing, or in this case cinema, there's a feature when you have a scene that's very, let's say, emotionally intense. The kids are skateboarding in my neighborhood. You have a scene that's very emotionally intense, and then to break that, somebody tells a joke. Right? So a scene from Guardians of the Galaxy is when, you know, as you're asking us to commit suicide, and the Star-Lord says, "Yes, I am," and then Gamora stands up and says, "I'm willing to die with my friends," and then so does Thrax. Everybody else stands up, and then Rocket makes a joke at the end of the scene, and it sort of livens it. It sort of deflates that the scene is just built up. And Marvel does this a lot. There's a lot of points where, like, for example, would be Robert Downey Jr. from the video when he talks about the shawarma place after he falls from the sky and they think he's dead. You know, that humor breaks the tension. There's a name for that. It's called bathos. But now I do. And bathos is a technique used, like I said, in a lot of Marvel movies. And the author makes a comment that the point of bathos is that so things don't feel too real. It's a way to kind of distance yourself and from things. You don't want it to be, as they would say, too cheesy. Whereas the director of Wonder Woman, she said, you know, I ban the word cheesy because what cheesy means is sincere emotions. And I don't think that those are cheesy. I think we need to have those in film. You see the difference. She never has that moment scene is then suddenly just made flippant with the use of bathos. And that's why I think people were more emotionally connecting with her story, because there was actually an opportunity for, when you had an emotional reaction, for it to sustain and carry you through the film. So, sorry, I just talked for a long time again. But those weren't my ideas. I'll try to find the video and put a link. It's really good. Oh, Tom.
Yeah, what I was interested in, now I'm echoing. Am I still echoing?
No, you're not. I don't hear the echo. So go ahead.
Okay. Okay. What I thought was interesting and well done was well, several things, but one was her vast curiosity. I mean, instead of being this object of I don't know, lust and curiosity and things like that from other people, she had this childlike wonder at everything, or most everything, and she would be, and just this impression I have of her when she would first see something or hear something, and she would just focus on it, like in her face was just intense and half smiling, and wow, you know, I'm learning something new. And she at the same time she was learning this stuff new, she was trying to integrate it with her own upbringing, which is so radically different than you know, from anything that she was involved with that in the movie. Another thing I liked was that her she never did things that in a worse directed movie would be for the furtherance of the romance. You know, in the beginning when she went, when was it Chris Pine flew into the ocean and she saved him, and they learned about this war going on outside, the Great War, the one to end all wars, the last one, obviously. We haven't had any since. And she didn't follow him back to the war, to leave the island, to go back to, you know, to the rest of the world, to follow him. She did it to follow her destiny. You know, her job was to save, well, save the world, I guess. You know, she and Bill Nye, but her destiny was to kill Ares, to stop a war, and that's where the war was. And so she was following that. In fact, she kind of had to drag, you know, the male lead a little bit, and none of what she did was in furtherance of some kind of side plot to, you know, about, you know, oh, she's falling in love with him. I mean, there was a little bit of that, but it was more. It wasn't ever the motivating factor. She was laser focused on her one job, which was to, you know, she was born to kill war. She was working at that as well as she could all the way through. And to do that, she had to learn what the rules were, and that's where the curiosity came in. And and she didn't know the rules about women not being superheroes and women not doing MMA moves and petticoats and long dresses. That was in the dress shot. That was one of the funniest things. She was doing these high leg kicks, and and what was interesting too is that not a lot of people were standing around looking at her as being strange, except the lady next to her. You know, her sort of minder in the 20th century.
Yeah.
And then, well, just the one last thing. When she worked to try to save the village, and everybody was saying, stay down, you know, we're not sure you understand machine guns. And that moment when she stood up in the trench, climbed the ladder, and started going forward in no man's land with a shield up. I mean, that is my screensaver right now. I mean, not screensaver. That's my background on my computer when nothing else is up. That's my image of her as, you know, well, yeah, I understand that there's tactics and all this stuff, and there are important things that maybe not just saving this village, maybe saving the world is good. But what's the use of saving the world if you have to lose villages of people that you could have saved with this extra work? So fuck it, I'm doing this. And she did it, and it was glorious. That was the action scene that I liked. I didn't like the action scene at the end, you know, the superhero throwing armored cars around, things like that. And that was all right, but that was expected. That was the CGI boss battle that you have to have if you know if you're doing this modern shit. But the action scene that I thought was the most powerful that I can remember, I think, ever seeing in a superhero movie was her going forward in no man's land against machine guns and mortars, because she wanted to save people. You know,
I want to touch.
Yeah,
you can finish.
I'm done.
Well,
I'm
okay.
muting. I talked too long.
That's good. I love that scene too. And from what I heard from my older brother who read an interview from the director of Patty Jenkins, apparently she had to fight tooth and nail to keep that scene in the theatrical cut in the movie. I was like, why does this movie studio want to cut that? I mentioned that in Steve Shy's Patreon Hangout, but like, I don't know. It was a great action scene, but also it was, like you said, that one's more memorable because of the pathos and what leading up to it. And that was the first time we see Wonder Woman in her full outfit. The outfit itself was like off screen or in the corner, or she was always wearing that like fur robe over it. So we never fully saw her in the outfit until that scene in the movie. And yeah, it was like important for her because she felt like was going to win in the war if we can't stay in the village and stuff like that. So that's the director was right in fighting tooth and nail for that scene to stay in the movie because it was really powerful scene and stuff like that. I love that scene a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know, she had an emotional arc. She wanted to take the audience on through, and the studios are looking at, you know, fight scenes and pacing, and they're not seeing, you know, the film through her eyes. And I do think she had a commitment to an emotional journey, not just an entertainment journey throughout that film. So, and respond to something, Troy, you've been, yeah.
To release a cut amongst the pigeons. Like, I don't know whether anyone remembers it was all over Twitter, and everyone was making a YouTube video about it. It was about, there was one picture screening house that had like a women's only screening of it, and there was it was kind of a reaction to that. And I'll just like preface this by saying, like, I don't identify as a feminist, but I'm not an anti either. I'm basically an anti-bullshittist. That's like my but it just seemed really out of proportion to anything. I mean, because it regularly happens in Australia. Like, we have heaps and heaps of screenings. Like, when they release movies that are marketed towards women, they call it the Chicks at the Flicks, like with our major cinema chains. And it's a regular event that they'll have like once a month. And it's just like, it's kind of like a girls' night out thing. They serve booze and yeah, it's just the idea of it. That's just like a cultural thing. And I don't think, like, I'm wondering why they'd have such a reaction. Like, would they really want to go to a film like of just men in a particular screen? Because I go to the pictures by myself. I never go with company because I only go to see a horror film. Like, the rest of them I'll see on DVD, but it's for horror. So I have to go alone so I can have the scary time and then have to drive home on my own, because that's part of the scare, I think. yeah, just like in context of that, it didn't really it didn't even register in my mind that there was anything wrong with that, of having like that type of screening event. It was like, I just think it was hysteria over nothing really.
Yeah.
So
Does anyone want to react to that?
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, my younger brother, the Gamer Gator, he mentioned something about that. It wasn't the fact that it was like for women's only. It's a stupid point, but oh, someone could just say that they're women and get into those screenings and stuff like that. And that started a conversation. And yes, please, everyone assume the facepalm position. This is where I realized that my brother was, well, I always knew he was listening to like Sargons and those other people. And he brought up Jordan Peterson and like how is polite of it. And even from his retelling of what Jordan Peterson was trying to do, I was thinking, Jordan Peterson is an asshole. So that's my only comment on this. It's a bunch of stupidity with stupid reasons of the women's night out outrage.
I agree. I mean, it's a way to get clicks, isn't it? That's it. You're right. If this was some sort of rom-com and they had a women's only, like screening at 7 and 9 on a Tuesday night or whatever it was, nobody would pay attention. But, because of the whole superhero genre thing and what happened with Ghostbusters, I think they were looking for reasons to be offended, whether that's what about the men's, or this idea that, someone could walk up and just say that they're a woman. I'm like, theory, but honestly, how many people are actually going to do that? I mean, you're either doing it because it's true, in which case you should be in the cinema, or you're doing it because it's not true and you're trying to be a dick, in which case you should get outside and play more. Very little to do with your life if that's what you're doing, unless of course you're trying to get clicks for a YouTube video saying, oh, I tried to get into this women's only screen as a woman for today. Then you're just showing up. Anyone else on that point?
Yeah, hello. As I understand it, it was only one screening, and it was, if nothing else, I mean, I think it was a good thing to have, a place for women who might otherwise feel a little bit odd about going to a superhero movie alone, might be able to go and feel comfortable there. But it was one screening. I think look at what it generated. People in Australia know about it. It was to generate buzz. It was to generate business for the Alamo. What was it? Alamo Steakhouse, Alamo whatever, something house, and it did. I remember the name of most of the name of the theater. Just in terms of marketing, it was brilliant, and I don't think it really harmed them at all. I'm sure that the Meninist MRA MGTOW boycott brought more people to that theater than they lost in the whiny white boy demographic.
I think it was supposed to be just like one showing at one location at the Alamo, but because of the outrage added, they thought, wow, people are talking about it. And so they did it for all the branches, where all the branches across the country had like their own version of a women's night out. So yeah, the outrage just worked for them and just caused more promotion for their theaters.
It was even better than I thought it was.
Yeah. Streisand effect at work.
Yep. Or the Sarkeesian effect.
Oh yeah.
No, honestly, it was because of my younger brother's blog that I was like, "Who's this Neil Sarkeesian?" And then I started watching some of her videos, and my reaction was, "Good point. I never thought of that. Huh? It makes me reconsider and rethink my enjoyment of like those video games and stuff like that, or even like Donald Trump and Putin jokes from her recent show and stuff like that."
Yeah, I think, and wanting good characters that are different and have variety and can do different things and have different experiences just make for better stories. But sorry, Troy, I cut you off.
Yeah, it's not a natural phenomenon. Like I can't imagine like a movie scene where like it would be a room full of men that actually want to go to see a movie with just men in it. Like no matter how it was marketed like towards men, I can't imagine that in my mind. Like I can imagine women going together as like a big group and having that, but I can't imagine like men actually wanting that sort of thing. You can think of other types of situations where men might want to do things on their own, or sort of like a bonding situation with men, etc. But I don't think movies, that's not a situation that I can even imagine in my mind, but that would even be applicable.
The other thing too is that if they did that for every movie, if they had like a bro version, of a men's night for seeing whatever the new X-Men is, you would just see that there are so many more times that the guys can do that, because there wouldn't be nearly the number of films where you could have a women's only screening. That's also, it's like the disparity in even being able to do that in that direction. It's like you're complaining about one screening over here for women, a superhero movie that doesn't suck and has a really good female lead, and you're gonna be mad about that too, really? Like just this one little thing, when you get all the other movies, as leads. You could have bro nights on those all the time. We would never have it.
That's how they want to get girlfriends, because I hate to say it, but like I don't know, I guess guys tend to be a bit more kind of I guess when it comes to going to the movies or whatever, they tend to like prefer to have their girlfriends or wives with them. It's like just a general kind of thing that I observe.
So back to the topic of heroines.
Yes, we shouldn't talk about these like stupid MGTOWs or anything like that. They're winning they're winning the battle. We've been talking about when we're supposed to be talking about heroines. Go ahead, Kristi.
Yeah, so I don't know much about why the Ghost in the Machine, that was the earlier
Ghost in the Shell.
Ghost in the Shell, sorry. Yeah, Ghost in the Machine is something else. I can't remember, yes. But it shows you how little I know. I would be interested in knowing what is compelling about the character and what makes her stand out. That's the one that you were thinking of, or that you chose.
It's just, well, I guess for me, it's just like, it's one of the Ghost in the Shell franchise, one of my favorite franchises of all time in the standalone complex. The first series was just such a good one. I think like they even like bring up, which is something interesting that I wish that world would explore, is that because of prosthetic bodies, you can basically choose your own gender. Even Bato brought it up to like Makoto that like you can be a man if you want to and stuff like that, or have a male body. Why do you choose like that body? She just likes that body a lot more, and so they don't really fully explore just like transitions in that way. It would be interesting if they do. I would like to see them do that, but just the fact that like for her, it's like, yes, she's female, she can use her bountiful bust and hips for certain missions or stuff like that, and she resented that mission. But hey, she can turn off her like sensors on her skin so that she didn't have to feel the touching of her bum and stuff like that. Yes. But what was I going with that? I think it's like she just chose to have a female body because that's kind of what she was naturally born as, and she doesn't see that as a hindrance at all, and it's never a hindrance, and it's like only a few times that they pointed out. No, I really love the Ghost in the Shell franchise. I was disappointed in the live action movie. The whitewashing in there was also worse than I thought. That's its own other thing, but no, and then like anime, I was just thinking about that. There's like other shows that have good, strong female characters, like Balsa, and another show that the same writer and director of Ghost in the Shell standalone complex, Kanji Kanawama, he did Marubuta, Guardian of the Spirit, and the lead was a female character, Balsa, who is conventionally attractive, yes, but that was never a point, and she's more of just like a medieval Batman in a way, or she has the skills and gymnastics to do things. But the role she was put in as early as the first episode is that she basically has become a surrogate mother for a prince that was going to be killed by his father because of the belief that this boy, the prince, is going to bring a curse of famine to the kingdom and stuff like that. And so it's a really good show that she has to like become a mother to this prince and protect him for as part of her contract for the year. That's a really good show. There's a lot of good shows I can mention, like Oscar from Rose Versailles, a fictional character from a actual historical character who wanted a boy, and then got the last child, the Oscar, a girl. But then he decided, you know what? I'm just going to raise this girl as a boy. And so Oscar is a really interesting character from that aspect because she is a woman, but she sees herself as one of the guys. She learned sword fighting. She became the royal guard, and she strives to like be that, and then being a bodyguard for Marie Antoinette, and actually became like the captain for the Royal French Guard. And she's always, she hates wearing dresses and just wants to wear her pants and be soldiers and be seen as just another soldier, and has to deal with the discrimination against her for that. Rose of Versailles is a really good show. It's a legendary anime and manga, really popular in Japan. I really recommend it. I think it's on YouTube, legally on YouTube, so you can watch that. Oh, and another good female lead character in an anime. Why am I blanking on the name now? Oh God. Kimo's Journey. That's right. That's a female character that's not conventionally attractive, or like she's not ugly, but she's mistaken as a boy oftentimes, and it doesn't bother her because it's unimportant that she's a female. And Kimo's Journey is a really good anime too. It's kind of like it's the Doctor Who of anime, because she just travels to different places, and it's like this focus on the story. And Kimo's Journey is the places she goes to and the weird places she goes to, and she has a companion that's a talking motorcycle. So I could list other like great heroines from anime, of the magical girl shows, of the Sailor Moons, Cardcaptor Sakura, one of my favorite shows, Princess Tutu, again, one of my favorite shows, Princess Jellyfish. They're heroines in just that it's just regular people, but then have to like just live with their normal lives. I could go on, but yeah, I'll let others talk now.
All right. Thanks for that. I'm going to raise a Game of Thrones, but before I do, I wanted to kick it back to see if, Marion, I don't think your PC is working, sadly, so if there's anything you want to throw in for a topic. Oh, yeah, no, okay. Yeah, you're working, great, okay.
Yeah. So, one thing I really like about Motoko is that we just don't know much about her. She's just this very competent, very hardworking and tough as nails woman, and her past is mostly mysterious. Motoko Kusanagi isn't her name. That's an obvious alias. And yeah, that's one point. Another favorite female anime character for me is Misaki Kirihara from Darker Than Black. She's an chief of police chief type, some kind of very high up police officer, and for a special division investigating strange crimes that are committed by a special type of people. It's a very interesting show, and she just wants to find out the truth, and isn't afraid to investigate things, even if it looks like her own bosses or even her own family is involved in the crime somehow. And another show I really like is the whole lyrical Nanoha thing. It's well, imagine a Gundam series is if the Gundams were little girls. Yeah, it's true. And
Anime is weird. Just if you take nothing else from this, anime is weird.
oh yes.
But that's why I love it too.
Yeah. And in the Lyrical Nanohoverse, most of the characters are women, with perhaps 1 or 2 male characters per season. So it's a really good show. And I'm done.
Okay, yeah, before I talk Game of Thrones, Troy, is there anything that you want to bring up?
I think that'd be good to see. So when I've heard these things, like especially some random geek, and then especially the Doctor herself, but the level of kind of pop culture criticism and kind of the knowledge, like that'd be awesome to see on those kind of channels. Like, as if you ever got thought, oh, this politics is getting me down, or the drama's getting me down. It's like that'd be a good kind of segue now and then to do like a pop culture type video, because I do that myself now and then, but I mainly look at postmodern type of. I take apart kind of YouTube videos that are kind of part of that abstract kind of postmodern. But obviously, it's not. I'm a bit tongue-tied tonight. Like, I'm not speaking as well as I should be.
Don't
Before
worry,
I
I'm
go-
hungover. Don't worry, I'm hungover. It's still a little hungover from last night. It was my birthday party last night, so that's why.
Yes, happy birthday!
Thank you. I'm now 33. Today's my birthday, so hey, since I'm not going
Yes.
where I don't drive, I got mead with me, blackberry mead. So I'm going to be drinking a little bit, and I was drinking during the hangout, if you haven't noticed. So.
Woohoo! There you go. Happy birthday to you. We would sing happy birthday, but I think with all the lags, it would sound absolutely disgusting. So we're just going to skip that.
You can just like type it in the chat, and that'll be fine.
Yes. Oh, and as long as we're talking about off-topic things, I just want to shout out. I got my T-shirt from the Woolly Bumblebee. Anti-Sargonism is the new punk rock. This is on her Redbubble store, so go check it out. I also will say I got the medium, and it's actually quite big on me. So if you're thinking about that, just look at the dimensions, because I went with a European medium, and I think it comes out more of a North American medium, and it seems to fit kind of loosely on me. So anyway, yeah, just wanted to do that little plug there for Willie.
And
comfortable T-shirt.
And since I forgot to mention that last week in the last Patron Hangout, I was wearing It Was Whirlpool T-shirt. This one, I just have a T-Turtle Avatar: The Last Airbender T-shirt with like the Toph and like Zuko and like Aang and like I forgot her name, Aang with all the water elements, and then like Sokka at the end with heart. It's a reference to Captain Planet and how Mati has the power of heart, while the other 4 have elements powers. Avatar: The Last Airbender and Legend of Korra, also good pop culture like things that have good, strong female characters. Toph is just like blind and a 12-year-old and blind, but she doesn't care because she used her earthbending powers and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Takes my mic a little bit. Now, just when I want to cough, that's when I turn my mic on. Yeah, so I was just going to bring up not necessarily heroines per se. There are a lot of great female characters in the Game of Thrones, but what for me is more interesting about that series is, and especially with the TV series, because the books, obviously you can get a little bit deeper. Let's just go with the television series, though more people have probably seen that than have read all the books. They're absolutely necessary to the story. You know, you can't really swap out Arya for just somebody else. She has a personality. She has an arc. She has a place. Cersei, you can't just swap out. You know, it's not like Mario Brothers, the video game, where the princess could just be anybody. You could just make her look like however you wanted to, because she's just a placeholder. She's just a prize. And I like that. I mean, even though the story is set in with a lot of patriarchal power structures, women are able to subvert those quite often. But the storytelling itself, because it is highly influenced by the War of the Roses, which also were very important to the events and the roles that they played in helping shape those events or not bringing certain events about. I think that's also very exciting for me to read, because again, so oftentimes female characters have just been there as a support for the male characters rather than being fully developed characters. And the fact that we're seeing that now, I think it just makes for better stories. I mean, there's a valid feminist critique there about women's representation and stories that include strong female characters, just because it's representativeness there. But it's also because you can tell some damn interesting stories that haven't been told before, because you're taking a character that's normally just there to support someone else. And a lot of these times, one things that come up are the barriers of discrimination. Like, you know, what do women face that male heroes don't face? That itself can add elements of tension to the story, like we saw in the Wonder Woman thing. It wasn't that she just had to go in there and convince them. She was a woman in an all-male space. She wasn't allowed in there. So first she had to get her foot in the door, and then she had to convince them, you know? So anyway.
And she just like walked right in too. She just didn't care because she didn't know any better. But even if she was told, no, you can't own there, she'd be like, why? And just goes in like she did in the movie.
Yeah. So anyone else? We're kind of coming up. We got about 4 minutes left here in the chat. So anyone else want to throw in some closing thoughts or a last minute suggestion of a topic, a character we could discuss?
I would just mention. So go ahead, Troy. Sorry.
I think I'm going to get dogpile for this, but it's like because I'm not actually up with Game of Thrones. Like I could, like it was just I'm sort of worried that I'll get lost in the plot, the sheer number of characters. But I am very much addicted to prison drama. Like if it's a prison drama, that I'm there. That's my thing. So it's like I was talking last week about the show Wentworth as like the it's kind of the adaptation. It's almost like an Australian version of Orange is the New Black, but it's based on an original, like it's the 80s soap, which is called Prisoner Cell Block H, but it got readapted into a new thing. So the like they kind of softened some of the characters. So the character of Vinegar Tits, like she was one of the prison guards, like she was made a bit nicer, but then the Freak was made a lot more sinister, kind of like an Anthony Hopkins type level of psycho. And like if you saw her performance as one of the prison, like the Freak, just to see her performance alone, like that's almost Oscar worthy, like the level of like psychopathy that's there.
I would say in the Game of Thrones, don't be too worried, because the way that Martin tells the story is you start with one family and you kind of get to know the members of that family, and then they interact with the second family and you get to know them. And then you sort of, as he revisits characters over and over again, so you don't forget about who they are or what their place is in the story. And then he slowly builds up the world and builds it out. So it's very well crafted, and it's not just sort of to Joss Whedon and Firefly, where he just sort of throws you into the ship and then you get to know those characters, but there's like 7 characters by the end of the episode. And, you know, that's a lot to cover in a 50-minute span, but Martin has, you know, books to do that. So don't, and the TV show does the same sort of mirroring of the smaller, intimate, and then coming out and out and out and out and out. So don't worry about that. What I would say is if you do start it, very bingeable. So pick a weekend, episodes, and see where you are on season 1. Just try 4 episodes and then see if you want to continue.
The 4 or 5 episode test. That's the same thing that the anime fans do, the 4 and 5 episode test, except that some anime fans still do the 1 episode test. But don't worry, Troy. I have also never seen a single episode of Game of Thrones. And I'm probably just going to be, this would be the one show where it's just like, everything's going to be spoiled for me. I'm just going to know who dies and what happens and stuff like that, because I'm also listening to Kristi's Hangouts with like Lady Columbia or Michael Rowlands about Game of Thrones. Lady Feminists talk about Game of Thrones. So I'm just going to be totally spoiled on that show, but it's a different way to enjoy it. It's just like know exactly what happens, but instead of wondering what's going to happen, know exactly what's going to happen and be interested and curious to see how that plays out in the story and how the characters play it out and stuff like that. So yeah, but I have not seen Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I'm the same way with Dances with Wolves. I've never seen Dances with Wolves. But on the Game of Thrones, this is the other thing I'll say, is if you like videos, you make videos, you enjoy the visual aspects of cinema, then every scene in Game of Thrones is composed the way a picture, like a painting, would be. So if you want to just watch it for their use of color, the way that they use the costuming, the way that they use light and dark, especially the use of color, and just where they put people in the scene, just sort of like, is that called blocking? It's just gorgeous on the eyes. So that's another reason I would advocate for GOT.
It's a French word, isn't it? It's called, what is it called? Mise en scène or something?
Mise en scène?
It's a French word. It's,
Yeah.
Mise en scène or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like correct me if I'm wrong, it's something to do with looking at like just one particular shot, like a still shot, and having and that looking like a beautiful picture that captures a lot of things in it. Is that kind of the idea?
Do. Yeah, like literally, yes. I mean, I didn't go to film school, so I'm an amateur, like apprentice video person. I'm coming up literally like with no training. So I know that these terms exist, but I don't always know what they mean. But in terms of that, if that's what it means, if the mise en scène is the way that the composition of the shot looks, sort of irrespective of what's happening inside of it, just its placement and everything, yeah.
Yeah, me, I never went to film school either. I'm going by what I learned from like Lisa Ellison, Every Frame and Painting, those kind of like excellent educational YouTube video series and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's kind of strange how YouTube makes you an amateur sort of, film student, basically. As soon as you get a channel, if you take to it, you end up like going, oh, cameras and sound equipment, and how do I clean up my audio, and how do I do the lighting? What's a white balance, and all these things.
I can only do the sound properly when I upload music covers, because I've got a kind of a box thing that does like that goes from the keyboard into, and so I can put my digital effects in there. But apart from that, it's like when I try to make a analysis video, I use still shots. So it's kind of like it's almost like an old school explication or teaching where you got like a slideshow of these still, and that's why like when I take the still shots of like a particular film that I'm analyzing, like a YouTube film, it's like I just use the still imagery, so it's like kind of, I'm careful about what I choose, so it's got that like mise en scène type thing, which I can't pronounce French for shit, but
yeah, I mean, just go look at a trailer for like season 1 of it, and just look at, because literally you could just put on a video of it and hit pause anywhere, like fast forward randomly, and yeah, the people's eyes might be like, ugh, but the actual composition is just going to be, yeah. Like things are there for a reason. But Marianne, being our first timer here, I wanted to invite you to have kind of like the last word. Anything else you want to say about heroines or the importance of heroines before we wrap this up?
Well, I think everybody should have the chance to see themselves as the protagonist of a story. And recently I was very disappointed with a few shows that depicted people like me either as the criminal or the butt of the joke, because I'm mentally ill. I was hospitalized this year, and just the amount of misinformation that's out there is staggering. And heroines are a good start, but we need more.
People treat conditions and diseases above the neck far differently than they treat diseases and conditions below the neck. That's a problem with society as a whole. Yeah, I feel for you.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, and I think that's beautifully said, that we all need to see ourselves, we all want to be able to see ourselves as a hero of the story. And we shouldn't always, have to change to find someone to empathize with. All right. Well, to my 15 viewers, thank you guys for joining us for the live chat. Really appreciate it. And we will be back. We're going to set up a date for August off air, so I'll announce those. And if you would like to join our August conversation, it will cost you as little as $1 a month. If you just go to the Patreon icon at the end of any of my videos, you can make a contribution not only to helping me and the channel with my equipment and other things, but of course you automatically would make contributions towards the Resistance Fund. And I'm actually going to be doing a video on that shortly. I want to go through all of the groups that we've made contributions to so far, just to see where we've come since that has started, and then also make the offerings for the July nominees. So to my patrons, thank you guys for your support, and it's lovely to chat with you. Don't go anywhere. Again, we have our special off-air chat that was just for us. For a few minutes afterwards. So to everyone in the audience, I've been Kristi. These guys have been awesome. You have been awesome. And I'll talk to you all again really later. Yeah, in a little while. Bye.